This is At Home Thursday, and I'm Maria Carr. And like I said earlier, I am completely starstruck because I'm sitting with a real NASA astronaut candidate, Dr. Truman Henard. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Oh, it's fun to be here.
A few weeks ago, I got to participate in an educational program at Jordan Commons with about 400 homeschool children and their families. I took my children and their friends. I had a big, huge entourage, and it was so wonderful. We were completely mesmerized, and it just seemed like it was too short. But before we get into the interview, I want to tell you a little bit more about Dr. Henard. And while we do that, let's run some footage of the space days that we attended that day. Dr. Truman is the principal electrical engineer and chief operating officer of the Salt Lake-based engineering firm of Spectrum Engineers. He has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Purdue University, and he has a master's and a doctorate in electrical engineering from LaSalle University. He has in the past been a professor at LaSalle School of Graduate Engineering. He's a licensed FAA pilot and advanced ground school instructor. He's had a faculty position in the flight training program at Southwestern Illinois Community College. He's also a nationally certified model law engineer, and I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds really impressive, with the National Council of Engineering Examiners. And he's licensed to practice in 20 states and the District of Columbia. Now, before he joined Spectrum Engineers as a principal partner, he worked at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida as the chief design engineer and project program manager for the design of the entire Kennedy Space Center fire alarm reporting system. He also served as a principal engineer providing specialized engineering service for NASA at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Did I say that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. It was such an amazing evening. He showed us documentary and then explained everything that was going on the space shuttle. But my first question is, do you ever sleep?
Very little. With my crazy work schedule, I've got projects in about 7 different states, so I travel a lot.
Oh my goodness.
You know, my involvement in space days and the number of schools that I go to and present this wonderful program. And then just family life. You know, still got 2 kids at home, a daughter in high school. Trying to keep it all the balls in the air at one time. Sometimes, you know, sleep is a rare commodity, and I catch it when I can.
Well, that's a secret you'll have to tell us about. But when did you first realize that you wanted to be an astronaut?
Oh, it was when I was a kid.
Really?
I'm a baby boomer. Growing up in grade school in the 60s, at the middle of the American, race with the Russians to the moon, and I can always remember when the Mercury missions were scheduled, the early missions, 7 Mercury astronauts, Alan Shepard, John Glenn, and I was mesmerized by the program.
Oh, yes, me too.
I had every model that was ever made. I'd sit there and put those things together and hang them off the ceiling in my bedroom. But my mom would let me play hooky and stay home from school. And I knew then that's what I wanted to be.
That's a great mom.
Well, she would come in and she'd take my temperature on the day of a launch and say, "Oh, I think you're sick. You better stay home from school." So she knew.
You can't let school get in the way of your education.
That's right.
That's what I always say.
That's right.
There.
And anyhow, as time went on, I got into an adult career and was an electrical engineer practicing. And I don't say that the desire ever went away, but as I looked at people like John Glenn and Alan Shepard, I thought to myself, these are the people with the right stuff, superlative military careers, excellent athletes, there's no way. And then when I started working at KSC, I realized, wow, these astronauts are just like me, doing the same thing that I do. If they could do it, I certainly could do it. And as a matter of fact, one of them walked in my office one day and saw my credentials on the wall and said, "Why haven't you applied?" JSC had my application a week later. So that's how it all started.
That's great. And how did you get involved with Space Days?
Well, Space Days, one of my strongest supporters in my astronaut candidacy has been my hometown congressman, Jerry Costello, from the 12th District of Illinois. He chairs one of the House subcommittees that actually oversees NASA. His wife is a school administrator. As a matter of fact, she's the president of the college I taught flight training at. And he always gets hundreds of requests to have astronauts, given his position, to come and speak at schools. Well, with only 100 astronauts in the Corps, there's not enough to go around. I mean, he's just one member of Congress. They get thousands of requests a year, and he can't fill them all. So Jerry came to me one day and said, "You're a pretty good public speaker. How about going to some schools and making some speeches for me?" So I did a couple of them, and the response was so overwhelming that he said, we've got to make this work better. Next thing I knew, I was on a plane on my way to Washington, D.C. I met with the people at the Office of Education. They gave me tons of materials, lessons on how to publicly speak about NASA, and next thing I knew, the program grew from there.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's amazing to me how interesting you made it, because this could be something that might not be interesting to the regular public, but every child in there, I mean, he had to cut the questions short.